Hey, friends, and welcome back to Remix Moments with Martine, where we remix your mindset one moment at a time. Today, we are talking about something that's been coming up a lot in my one on one coaching conversations. And if it's showing up for them, I have a feeling that it might be showing up for you too. We've all heard about boundaries. We've talked about that extensively here on the podcast over the last 4 years and also in my mompreneur glow up email. So that goes out every single Monday. So I want to just encourage you, if you're not on that list, go to martinewilliams.com and get on the glow up list. It's an amazing email that comes to your inbox every single Monday with some amazing inspiration, encouragement, and tips for your mompreneur life. Okay, but outside of boundaries, have you ever thought about guardrails? Because the truth is, sometimes, and this is what I hear from my clients, boundaries can feel too hard, too harsh, too reactive, but guardrails can be a beautiful, proactive, compassionate way to honor what matters without waiting for things to go off the rails first. I am always someone who thinks about prevention over repair. So let's talk about what guardrails are, why they matter, and how to set them up in your life and in your business. Welcome to Remix Moments with Martine, where we will remix your mindset one moment at a time. I'm your host, Martine Williams, and I'm here to bring you a quick burst of inspiration, insight, and a fresh spin on your mompreneur journey. In just a few minutes, we'll remix your mindset, energize your day, and keep you moving forward with purpose. Let's dive in to today's moment. So, what are guardrails? I want you to picture a guardrail on a winding mountain road. So my mom has a mountain house up in Highlands, North Carolina, and it's pretty windy. And there are definitely guardrails there on that mountain road. And it's not there to stop you from moving forward. It's there to keep you from veering too far off the course. Guardrails in your life are the same way. They are self-imposed supports. I want you to think internal systems that keep you aligned with your values, your energy, and your capacity before things get chaotic. So boundaries are often about other people, right? When you think of a boundary, you're probably thinking about saying no to others. You're thinking about other people and other situations. But guardrails are about you. And I love that too, because I'm a firm believer in 100% personal responsibility for creating the life, creating the business that we want. Doesn't mean circumstances don't exist, but it's how we respond to those circumstances and the guardrails that we put up personally to help us to stay on the path. We can't expect anyone else to do that for us. So, for example, a boundary might be I don't need to respond to a customer, or I don't respond to customer texts after 7 p.m. That might feel like a boundary, and that might feel harsh or might feel like you're lacking in customer service if you do that. But a guardrail is my phone goes on do not disturb at 6:30 and it charges in the kitchen overnight. So that's you having a guardrail to keep yourself and to protect your peace and your time. One says, here's what I won't allow from others. That's the boundary. And the other says, here's how I protect myself before I need the rescuing. So why do boundaries? Let's talk about boundaries just for a second. Like, why do they feel hard? And you're going to hear later on in the podcast, like I'm a firm believer in boundaries as well. But I do know this sometimes is hard for my clients to implement. So when we start talking about guardrails, it helps hit home a little bit more. So the honest stuff is boundaries, they can feel hard. And they can sometimes feel like confrontation, like drawing lines in the sand. And so for many women, especially those juggling motherhood, marriage, and entrepreneurship, saying no feels like letting someone down. How many times have you said that? Or you haven't set the boundary, or you haven't said no because you feel like you're letting someone down. Now, when we coach together, we're going to work through that and change your thoughts and your mindset around that. But let's just go with this for a minute. So they're not reactive. Guardrails are not reactive. They're proactive. Again, we're thinking about prevention here. And they're not about control. They're actually about clarity. Because guardrails are about honoring your capacity before you get overwhelmed. They protect your peace without needing to defend it. So if boundaries feel too harsh, this might be a more compassionate entry point for you into boundaries. So I just want you to think about that. And I'm a very visual person, so I want you to think about guardrails in that way. They're not blockers. They're keeping you on the path that you want to be on. So why do we need these as a mompreneur, as women in general, as people in general? Let's make this real for your today. So you're packing lunches, you're leading a Zoom call, and you're trying not to forget that all the things that you have on your to-do list. You want to build a business and you also want to be present at home, but you constantly feel like you're pulled in 10 different directions, right? I think we all can resonate to that, especially now in the summertime. This is where your guardrails become your guide. So some examples for you would be, again, no client calls after 2 p.m. so you can transition into mom mode without the crash. No social scrolling before, if this is during the school year, before school drop off. So you start your day grounded, not reactive, so that you honor yourself in the morning without getting hijacked from all the things that you're seeing on social media, especially from an emotional standpoint. Like, I don't know about you, but if you start your day on social media, it feels like there's an easy way to fall into a comparison trap. There's an easy way to see hardships of others and things that are going on. It just doesn't help you set the tone and start your day grounded. So maybe that's a guardrail for you. Maybe a Friday planning hour so next week doesn't sneak up on you. So you reserve your Fridays for planning, for follow-up, so that you can start your next week proactively and it doesn't sneak up on you. But you have to protect, that's a guardrail, right? You're going to protect that time. So these aren't rules. I want you to think of them again as rhythms and guardrails, and they help you to stay in alignment with who you want to be and who you've decided, and what you have decided is going to keep you on the path. And everyone's path is different. This is why this is personalized. This is something that you need to spend some time thinking through and figuring out what is the path that I want to be on. That's the first thing. And then here are the guardrails that I'm going to put up to make sure I don't veer off. So this has come up a lot as I said at the beginning, in my coaching clients, especially those who they came in a state of burnout, and we've gotten to the other side of their burnout. They're out of their burnout now. And there's just this thought and there's these fears of getting back into the burnout. And so we've been talking about, okay, what are the guardrails going to be that you are going to create to keep yourself on the path that we have now created, this new path, these new mindsets? What are the guardrails that you're going to be creating? And it's just been really eye-opening and empowering for these clients to create these guardrails. So let's talk about how do you create them. Hey friend, let's talk. It's time to book your clarity call. We are going to spend 1 full hour focused on you. A clarity call isn't about pressure. It's about possibilities. It's about you. You having a space to talk through what's on your heart and mind, you walking away with a clear vision and practical next steps, and you feeling confident in what's next and how to get there. You don't need to have it all figured out. That's my job. All you need to do is show up and we'll figure it out together. This is the best hour you can invest in yourself right now. Not in 6 months from now, not next month, right now. And don't just take my word for it. Here's what one of my coaching clients had to say after working together.
Working with Martine helped my confidence in starting and growing a new business. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't quite sure how to accomplish it. Martine helped me work through my ideas based on the results of my ProScan, and having weekly calls really helped me stay focused and working toward my goal. I highly recommend working with Martine for those who want to grow their business or who are just getting started. Having that focused time to work and work together is priceless.
That transformation, it starts with one conversation. It's time to stop spinning your wheels and start making real progress. So head right now to martinewilliams.com or in the show notes and grab your private clarity call spot on my calendar before they're gone. And since I personally monitor my inbox, if you don't see a time slot that fits your calendar, just send me an email at martinewilliams.com with 3 times that do work, and I will make it work for you. All right, friend, let's get back to the show. The first one is to identify where you drift. So, where do you feel scattered, stretched, or resentful right now? You're feeling off. For many of my clients, it's in their evenings, it's in their inboxes, or honestly, how they start their day. They're hitting the ground running and they're drifting into that hustle mode and the people pleasing mode. So identify where you are drifting. And here's something that's come up as well. It's a slow fade, right? So as you start creating more margin in your life and you start coming out of your burnout, whether that's us working together or you just working on it yourself, which I'm gonna say is harder to do than when you have a coach and someone to kind of support you through it. It's realizing that you have been in that state for so long. Like I tell people, like you've been wound tight. You've had this burnout. It didn't come overnight. It was a kind of a slow process into it. And it can be, without the guardrails, a slow fade back, right? So as you start getting back to working on your dreams and building your business, it's like you just start sacrificing a little, you start drifting a little bit at a time. Well, I'll just take this one phone call, or I'll just skip that one workout, or I'll skip that one morning devotional time, and then I'll get back to it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, and you're like, well, I still haven't finished the things on my to-do list, so I'm going to skip it again. So it's a slow fade back into it. And so we just want to go ahead now, while you're on the other side of it, set up those guardrails so that that doesn't happen. But it's not like this big jump back into it. It's a slow fade. So the first part is to identify where you're drifting, identify where you're going off course. Where do you find that it's easy for you to drift back into some of these old ways of thinking, old habits, old operating systems in your business, and how can we set what's the guardrail going to be? The second one is to anchor to your values. So what matters most right now? Your peace? Is it maybe presence? Is it progress in your business and you want to set some guardrails up for that? Progress in your marriage? Peace in your marriage? Presence in your marriage? What matters most to you right now? Choose one and let that be your compass. And then the third step is to design a guardrail to protect it and make it simple and specific so that there's no gray area there. So again, no emails after dinner. Like I'm just not going to check my emails after dinner. That's a guardrail for me because I know if I check one email, I'm going to be in the inbox for 30 to 40 minutes probably, if not longer. And that's going to steal away that time for my family or time for myself. Another one could be, again, Mondays are for CEO time, not customer service. So that you're working on the business on Mondays versus in the business. Both are important. Being a CEO and having your CEO time where you're working on the business is important as customer delivery. So we just want to make sure, though, that if you tend to skip the CEO, like for me, again, strategy and putting my CEO hat on is, it takes a lot of energy for me to do that. When I'm in customer service and I'm serving my people and I'm coaching, like that is where I'm the most energized. So I have to set a guardrail around, nope, Mondays are for my CEO time. There's no customer delivery. There's no customer service happening on this Monday. Obviously, if there's something specific that I need to get to that is like immediate, then I get to that. But for the most part, Mondays are set aside for that. And so I'm spending time on that. That's a guardrail for me to protect my progress. Maybe kids get my eyes, not just my how many times have we done that? We're looking at our phone and they're talking to us and we're just like, we're listening, but we're not really listening. And maybe that's like between 5 and 7. Like my kids get not just my eyes, they get my full presence. And then after 7 p.m., then I can do other things that I want to do. Some other examples would be like no meetings before 10 to protect my creative energy. So for me, like I don't like to take client calls or, I'm doing my personal self-care up until 10 a.m. on most days. So I get my walk in, I get my devotional time in, I get my prayer time in, and give myself time to get ready for the day. And so I start my day around 10 a.m. So that's a guardrail for me, because if I get up and I start checking email, I start checking social, I start checking all the things, then I'm going to skip those things. And that doesn't work well for anyone in my family or in my business. I got to put that oxygen mask on first. Maybe again, it's your phone goes on do not disturb during dinner. So there's no dings, there's no notifications, there's nothing interrupting that time for you. So that's your personal guardrail. Maybe it's I batch content on Wednesdays, so I'm not winging it all week. So if you're creating content, like for me, it's podcasting. So Wednesdays are when I'm creating my podcast episodes. It's when I'm doing my interviews. So that's a guardrail. Is I'm protecting Wednesday as my podcast day or my content creation day. So start with just one this week, whichever one you feel like most resonated with you. Don't try to do a full overhaul here. We're trying to create a shift. And so start with one. What's one guardrail that you want to create that's based on where you drift, where you're finding yourself drift, what is anchored to your values and what's most important to you right now, and what's going to help protect that. So let's talk a little bit about, like, we talked about guardrails and boundaries, but you need both, but they serve different purposes. So boundaries protect your space from others, and guardrails protect your energy from yourself. Guardrails are the rails that keep you from abandoning your own needs. It's you taking personal responsibility. Boundaries are often drawn when something's being crossed, right? When they're not honoring your no. But guardrails are installed to make sure you don't cross your own line, that you stay true to what you said you wanted to do. So one may feel more reactive and the other is proactive. One protects your no and the other protects your yes. Your yes to peace, your yes to presence, your yes to energy, your yes to this is what I need right now in this moment. And when you have both, you create a life that flows instead of fights, that leads instead of reacts. So guardrails aren't a replacement for boundaries. I want to be really clear there, but they are a companion to them. And they might be like I said, a more compassionate way or entry level into creating some boundaries. So one of my personal guardrails is I don't coach, I said this earlier before, at 10 a.m. And honestly, it used to feel like I was leaving money on the table. I'm like, that's a spot that I could put a client there. But I realized that I need to care for my own physical, emotional, and spiritual needs first thing to start my day. And that one guardrail helped me reclaim my mornings and be a better coach, be a better wife, be a better mom. Like, I am a hard worker and I've always been that. And I just had this vision in my mind. It needs to be 9 to 5, right? And so some days I might have to, but for the most part, this is not about perfection, y'all. This is about progress. And for the most part, 10 a.m. is when my first clients start, because I did actually have some at 9 and I just didn't love it. I started resenting that time slot and I just didn't love having to start my day even earlier. And I felt like it was cutting into that time for me. So that's a guardrail for me. So here's what I want you to hear. You're not flaky for having limits or having these guardrails. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less than a mom or less than an entrepreneur. You're wise for honoring them because it helps you to show up better. It helps you to stay on the path that you have decided you want for your life and for your business. So here is your remix moment for this week, or your call to action for this week, is I want you to choose one area of your life where you've been drifting, where you're noticing things are feeling off, or you said you wanted this, but you don't have the guardrails in place. Again, burnout can be a slow fade. So where do you see yourself sacrificing those things that you know are best for you and best for your business? Where are you drifting? And ask yourself, what's one small guardrail that I could set to stay aligned with who I want to be, how I want to show up, how I want to be remembered in my life, my business. And I want you to put it in place this week and honor it. And honestly, if you communicate it with someone, that's going to help. You're going to have some additional accountability there. And if you don't have someone, you can come and share it with me on Instagram at Martine31Williams. I would love to hear that, what it is, and celebrate that you have created a guardrail for yourself. And if you want help designing these rhythms and these guardrails that actually fit your life, this is exactly what we do inside of my coaching. This whole episode was inspired by the women that I've been working with and helping them to create these guardrails for themselves because they want to build their life and their business in a different way. They've done it the hustle way. They know they're experts. You're probably an expert at building it through hustle and burnout, but they want it to be different. And so that's what we do is we work through the burnout and then we create these guardrails. So whether you're recovering from burnout, you're drowning in decision fatigue and you're finding yourself in the land of indecision, that's my number one job as a coach is to help you to make a decision. It's painful to be a fence sitter and living in the land of indecision. Or maybe you're just craving more, like more peace in your week, more energy in your life, more courage and clarity around what your next steps are. You don't have to figure this out alone. And here's the thing, if you could have figured it out alone, you would have already done it, friend. So you can DM me on Instagram or you can go to martinewilliams.com/clarity and book your clarity call. It's completely free. It's 1 hour, you and I talking through where you are. We got to know where you are. And then we need to know where you want to go. And then what are the steps to get you there? You don't have to figure that out alone. And you don't have to come prepared. You just come to the call and we will work through that together. So let's build your business without losing yourself. Let's create the life that brings joy and fulfillment for you. And if this episode resonated with you and gave you something to think about, I'm sure you have a friend that needs guardrails too. So make sure you share this with your friends. You can share it on Instagram or just send them the link. Or better yet, screenshot it and tag me on Instagram and let's just spread this message around guardrails. All right, that's it for today. You've got this. Stay in your lane, protect your peace, and I'll see you back here next week. Well, that's it, friends, for this remix moment. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me, and I hope that you are feeling inspired and ready to take on whatever comes your way. Remember, even small moments can lead to big changes. If this moment made a difference, be sure to subscribe, share with your fellow moms, and leave me a quick review. Seriously, it means the world to me to hear from you. And until next time, I am believing in you, and I will catch you in the next moment.